it will work. So this is the Szigetköz region, which is actually the biggest inland river delta in Europe. And it has been severely damaged by the construction of the Gabčíkovo Nagymaros Dam System during the 1980s and 90s. In the second half of the 80s, the construction projects led in Hungary to an increasingly widespread civil resistance, which resulted then illegal mass demonstrations. And the anti-dam movement became an important element of the opposition's activism in the period of the regime change in the country. As a result, the Hungarian government stopped the construction on the Hungarian side in '89, and a few years later, Hungary terminated the contract with the then Czechoslovak side. A few months later, newly born Slovakia diverted 83% of the water into the artificial canal, 83% of the Danube's water. The legality of this act was never clarified. The two countries went to the International Court of The Hague in Holland, which finally condemned both parties in 1997 and ordered them to settle the situation with interstate treaties. This has never happened. This is the longest unsolved case which with the Hague Court of Justice ever worked. The environmental rehabilitation of the region has been on agenda for decades. At least the last research project, which is called Insula Magna, Sustainable Development Research Program, was initiated by the Ministry of Innovation and Technology with the participation of the Institute of Advanced Studies, Kőszeg, in 2021. The aim of the project was to develop a long-term and multifaceted concept that would enable the region to become a sustainable and development area by high European standards, bringing together conflicting spheres such as economy, ecology, and tourism. This was the first time, and actually the only time, when sound ecology has been presented as a part of a comprehensive research project in Hungary. My recent paper is based on my report following the research in the frames of Insula Magna project. I will start with describing the Szigetköz region as a soundscape. This will be followed by evoking research patterns and methods which can be tools of rehabilitation and development. And finally, I will propose research and action lines. So Szigetköz region as a soundscape, what are the characteristics? How does it sound? My research methods was based on sound walks completed by the use of hydrophone, my own interviews, and a questionnaire to local inhabitants, which was answered by more than 1,200 people. Additionally, I will also refer to hidden and microsounds, which are part of the soundscape. I will take the components in order, starting with the geophony. We can assume that geophony in the area is not extreme or not particularly rich, but it's there. The sounds of water are typical. They range from the gentle splashing to the sound of the roaring of floodings, which are quite rare. The richest impression of wind sounds comes from the moving of vegetation, especially in reed beds and also aspen groves. There are no signs of volcanic activities, thanks to God. As far as stones are concerned, the sliding drift of alluvial gravel moved by the water exposes the presence of pebbles, which are in the riverbed very frequent and typical. Biophony starts with domestic animals. Backyard animal forming used to flourish, but in the words of an interviewee, now there is everything but little, compared even to 20, 30 years before. The species are ranging from poultry to cattle, pig, horse, goat, sheep, donkey, anything. Dog barking is a significant soundscape element. And then let's switch to wild animals, first the very small ones. Only small proportion of Anyway, only a small proportion of arthropods and insects is audible to the naked ear. The chirping of crickets and grasshoppers is a keynote in the soundscape. This also appears in the public questionnaires. Less obvious are the quieter and microsounds that require amplification. The stag beetle, for instance, communicates vocally as early as the larva state, and males are observed to buzz in groups when mating. The fish stocks of the Szigetköz have been hit hard by the radical changes brought about by the building of the dam. Numerous studies have dealt with the consequences. Frog population has declined significantly in recent decades. This is hardly documented. According to oral communication, newts and turtles are also on the declining trend. Yes, the most obvious element of the Szigetköz soundscape is sound of birds. There are about 230 species of birds around, including a long list of songbirds. To name a few species of depletion, I call the pheasant and the little bittern, which used to be very common, while the Eurasian coot and the black-crowned night heron have already disappeared from this area. I had here a slide which mystically disappeared with all the endangered species. I'm sorry for that. But it's not coming back, I don't know. Anyway, now we switch to mammals. The most obvious the contribution of large mammals to the soundscape here is the bell of the deer in September. And the alarming cries of roe deers, foxes are also characteristic, as well as the hoarse coughing ruff, the luff call of the fox, which you can hear in December. Beavers make a variety of sounds as well, including splashes, which can be heard at a distance, while the beaver's gnawing, moaning speech is more of a microsound. And now we go to humans. Results of public investigation in the area of anthropophony is mostly about complaints. The list of disturbance in the public questionnaire is dominated by various traffic noise, completed by lawnmowers, saws, etc. And there is surprisingly little reference in the questionnaire to aircraft, though I heard quite, not as loud as here, but I heard airplanes going in the air. During the canoeing season between May and September, which is 5 months, there's a constant flow of cars on the small routes there. Water transport and motorboats are also accused. The underwater soundscape at Dunakiliti settlement is burdened by the dam itself. Above the water, industrial noises are clearly audible, even to the naked ear. Another source of noise is hunting, which is a regular occurrence throughout the year. The second largest group of complaints in the anthropophonic territory are social sounds, combined with electronic music players. Loud music is often associated with foreigners, with immigrants, or outspokenly Slovak immigrants, because in several villages there are newly built Slovakian neighborhoods. Slovakia is just on the border, the Danube is the border. In these neighborhoods, mostly people from Bratislava, the capital of Slovakia, are around, who enjoy the cheaper housing conditions of Hungary, which is over now, but in the last 10-15 years, it was representative. So that's about the soundscape. And now let's switch to research patterns and methods which can be applicable in the Szigetköz. Firstly, ecoacoustic monitoring, which can be quite relevant in the Szigetköz zone. It would allow us to observe how species adapt acoustically to changing conditions, how they use the opportunities provided by the acoustic niche, how the great animal orchestra is changing due to the climate crisis. We can obtain information on the size, diversity, or the restricted nature of populations, their health, numbers, behavioral patterns and dynamics, the arrival and departure times of migratory species, diurnal seasonal rhythms, the use of space, ontogeny, and other aspects. A lot of important things. So for all these reasons, I consider ecoacoustic monitoring to be of paramount importance in the area. My other issue is traditional knowledge, indigenous knowledge, so to say, in the Szigetköz. Way of life in the region has undergone too many transformations lately to make it easy to find active use. But my interviewees cited two examples for me. The black woodpecker is popularly known in this area as the wind crier, because if it cries out, it will certainly be windy that day. And the green woodpecker indicates precipitation. If it cries out, it will be certainly rain within 3 days. Rain is also signaled by the mass return of the bees to the hives, and also by the low flight of swallows. Both phenomena have their own specific sound elements. And now I switch to my proposed research and action directions. First, a bit of storytelling. The first phase of the Insula Magna project was completed in April 2022. Contrary to expectations, it seems that there will be no continuation within the original framework. Hungarian state doesn't seem to provide the financial cover in the future. So I decided to go on my own, what means with at the moment with the collaboration with students of Mohylinas University and also with local experts and volunteers. Sound can, according to my analysis, contribute to the concept of sustainable and forward-looking generation of the area in 3 ways. First, as a tool for monitoring ecological processes, as described before. Secondly, as a natural asset to be preserved and valorized. Thirdly, as an inspiration and material for site-specific artistic works related to the region. For the first point, the main purpose for monitoring is to save and sustain biodiversity. Acoustic monitoring as such is not even in its infancy in Hungary. Preparatory research should be carried out to identify where this type of study is likely to yield results, what should be monitored. The outlines are clear from the list of endangered species. Investigation is needed to see what is possible to obtain via sound in addition to usual methods. There has been a lot of talk lately about oral communication between the inhabitants of seas and oceans. Methods and approaches can be extended to freshwater fish species. This would be of great importance for our area. Personally, I see this as a priority. I have no experience in this at all. All advice and suggestions are very welcomed. My next point is sound as a natural asset. The overall objective is to include the natural soundscapes of the region among the values to be preserved and promoted. This gesture is a systematic practice in many national parks around the world, not at us. In the frames of a national park, real time and real space experience should be highlighted. The key concept would be new tourism, which means spending meaningful time in nature. The main target audience is small groups, including families. Contemplation and discovery are the buzzwords. The Szigetköz is suitable for the creation of novel listening places. We are going to call them sound gardens. And in addition to real-time experience, documentary presentation is also of great importance. A personal visit is time-bound and does not reflect the cyclical nature of the soundscape, nor its contents. It would be desirable to set up an online archive with all these attributes. Finally, sound in artistic works. We would enhance and promote ecologically motivated sound art based on local sources, field recordings. Residencies, events, campaigns would belong to this part of the project. Additionally, in the virtual space, I propose a sonic interactive sound map based playground of collected recordings and their collective use. Recent state of things. Insula Magna report referred to a series of planned institutions and facilities that would have been part of a comprehensive rehabilitation program. I highlight here the Szigetköz Academy, which is now just a fantasy because from the original sources it won't be realized. But the Szigetköz Academy would be designed as a center for research and training. In the vision, this would have been a living lab, a cross between a national park and an interactive museum with the backing to carry out data collection and big data processing. Also with a public function enabling communication, even in the sense of civil science. Although the Hungarian state has backed out of this the role according to the current perspectives, we have found an independent institution, a privately led ecological center in the region, which looks at the moment like this, and hopefully it will be completed. They agree with our goals, and they will they take on at least part of the tasks which are in the plans. Our first common event will be the Szigetköz Sound Garden on June the 3rd, which will present a rich program, including a listening canoe tour in the area. And I came to my conclusion. The final question is, what should get into the fore? Economic interests, enhancing mass tourism, or the values of nature, human cognition and respect? Will the area become the funfair of many thousands of well-paid workers from neighboring towns? For instance, the car factories in the city of Győr, which seek such possibility? Or will it focus on sustainable natural values and their presentation via regulated quality tourism? Perhaps not with the exclusive rigor of the Galapagos Islands, but with the same informed, committed consistency. Thank you. I'm ready for your questions. Yes, I will. Yeah. Yeah. Originally, 3 years ago when it started, it was a national point. And this research, Insula Magna, was initiated by the Ministry of Innovation and Technology, and they supported it financially. Meanwhile came this crisis, which really hits Hungary. We have a very high percentage of inflation and all other things which is caused mostly by the crisis and also by our own government. And it seems to be stopped. There is no official information. The people at the Kőszeg Institute don't know, it just stopped. So it started as a big national project, and to tell the truth, it's like I presented this. So I find that from my research point, from the sonic acoustic ecology point, there is an interest, international interest. People think that this is interesting. So I decided not to stop and not to wait for some state money which might come in 10 years. So I do what I can with my university students and also with some people. But at the moment, it's sort of a private enterprise. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah. Shall I amplify Jacek for all those on Zoom? So Jacek Smolitsky says that in Poland there is a conflict between a politically based conflict between the state policies and local local points. Fundings and so on. In Hungary, we haven't. In Hungary is also very much polarized, but we didn't come to this. It's just the lack of money at the moment. In small details, there can be political problems too, but we haven't come to that point yet. The students are sort of initiated. It's they are interested, and for instance, we are planning this sound garden event in early June, and they will actively take part in it. They will present issues about. They will make small presentations about the possibilities of sound. The role of sound in the area. We speak about an area where local people and tourists also have just no clue about sonic ecologies, and they are not. It's not a mindful thing. So our main point is just to bring awareness to the issues, and the students take part in this process. And hopefully they will also present artworks, because it's a combined theoretical and practical course, which is just now it's going on, and there are some sound designers who. So we are doing also sound field recordings, and we will present sound works. And actually, another thing is that in early May, as this university group, we will take part in the Reveille, in this 25-hour transmission of the waking of the birds. So we will go there, and it seems that we will be in 3 different places in the area, on water, in the woods, and a third place, and we will transmit sounds from the birds. Moving beyond. Yes, about the conference. Yes, sure. In November, we are organizing a conference in Budapest, which is titled Beyond Listening, and it will be hosted by Moholi Nagy University of Arts and Central European Network for Sonic Ecologies. And the open call is just on its way. I hope all who are interested will get it soon. Thanks very much. Yeah.
We have a break until 10:30.
I enjoyed.
And you were right on time.
Was I?
Yeah,
Okay.
right when you stopped, the
forgot.
alarm went.
I have my phone in my pocket. I want